Zambia, like many other regional countries in Africa, is facing acute food shortages. CNBC Africa's Trust Masilele sat down with the country's main opposition leader, Hakainde Hichilema, to discuss the state of the drought economy and upcoming elections. This is what he had to say.
First and foremost, the country really would have been in a better situation if we did not export a lot of the maize, a lot of the food we had only 6 months ago. And the exports were made against advice not to export because there was knowledge that the season won't be as good as it should be. And we exported our maize at a low price, $200 per metric ton. Now we have to import the maize at $500 per metric ton. So a loss of $300 per metric ton. Poor leadership.
That's what a lot of citizens struggle to understand, why people in position of power make such bad decisions.
It's just bad leadership, let's put it that way. Lack of, I think, seriousness, and sometimes, I think, inability to understand the economy and how it operates. In this particular case, one would have expected that the government would have understood that within a year or so, there will be shortage of maize in this case, and that the season that is following is not as good, and we would have then reserved most of the crops that we grew. But against advice, the government went ahead and sowed the maize.
And that comes at a time when the country is facing a weakening currency, which obviously is going to strain your export bill.
Exactly. This is what we are saying. In addition to making a loss on the price, as I said, $200 per metric ton, exported the maize, and now we have to buy it at $500 per metric ton. But in addition, there will be an added cost on the depreciation of the local currency.
What should a country like Zambia be doing now, going forward, considering that it's heavily dependent on copper exports, and the price of copper has been coming down for years now, and the predictions that it's going to remain like that going forward?
Diversification, but it's not just by word of mouth. It's to walk the talk, because we've been talking diversification for many years in Zambia, and it hasn't happened. And I think that's where you need a leadership that will understand the importance of diversification, because if you're dealing with too dependent on one commodity, mono economy, in our case copper, you know that commodity prices go up and go down. When they are up, you've got to take decisions, manage your resource properly, including production levels, and sell a little bit more, and then put in place measures that will create reserves to support your economy when the prices go down, because the prices will go down. That's the rule of this business in terms of commodities.
And as a successful business person yourself, you would have views on what areas you could diversify in.
Very, very, very clear views. First and foremost, we've got to make sure that we support growth of the energy sector, because it's critical to supporting economic growth. We as a party have clear economic growth projections. Our country has been declining in terms of growth. In fact, somewhere around 2010, we grew by 10%, thereabout. Now, under this leadership, this party in office, growth has declined to just about 3%. So we have lost 7% of growth. And now, as we plan to grow the economy, we need energy. Therefore, energy is a very, very important sector for us. And we know that the potential is quite good, even for hydro. We can generate easily close to 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 megawatts. We're only generating just around 2,000 megawatts.
One of the challenges that many African countries struggle with are elections. You'll be having elections very soon in Zambia. It's just difficult to have free and fair elections for some reason. And it mainly happens in Africa. Why?
It's greed. I think you've already articulated earlier. It's greed of a lot of our leaders. I'm afraid to say so. You know it. Every alert citizen of Africa knows. There's so much greed in there. Leaders that are in office don't want to leave office. There has to be life after politics. For me, there was life before politics. There will be life after politics. That's what we want to see. So when it's time to leave, the curtains are drawn down. You must exit. And you must be able to have something else to do outside of politics. That's the type of politicians Africa needs today. Those who have alternative sources of, if you like, survival outside politics, so that we don't make politics as a source of livelihood. We make politics not as a profession, we make it as a vocation. So the reason African politics and elections are riddled with corruption to a large extent is the greed, the desire to stay in office.
That was Hakainde Hichilema, president of UPND.